Story 1. Ever being inconsiderate. Spending too much of my 20s feeling unsuccessful with others feeling the same. Edit. I am not saying the solution is to pursue wealth or read books on how to get rich. I am just talking about moving on from having your life revolve around drinking with a group of self-centered people every weekend and being stuck in retail jobs, lacking the determination to study, etc. Story 2. I try not to spend too much time regretting the past, but when I was in my early 20s, my insecurity and lack of confidence ended up costing me a truly special relationship. I would not mind a redo on that one. Story 3. I told my brother to get away from me because I thought he was sick and I did not want to get sick too. I miss him. Story 4. Being overweight. I am tired of it, and I have started to change my habits. I have literally been addicted to overeating my whole life, and I am sick of it. Story 5. Cheating on my wife with a girl half my age. My regret hit the second that I started kissing her. It felt foreign, and the reality that I am not the cheating type flooded over me. I dropped her off at her place, ran straight home, and begged my wife for her forgiveness. I have spent the last 10 years making it up to her. Story 6. I don't really have any regrets. It's all in hindsight, and I am a different person than I was then. There are fantasies about what I think I should have done at the time, but those are just hypothetical dream scenarios. It would require me to be God for those situations to work out perfectly. Story 7. I didn't have the courage to stand by the person I truly loved. She was one of the only people to genuinely love me, and I abandoned her because I thought I was doing the right thing. But all that really happened was that I lacked the courage to do the right thing by her or by myself. Now she's gone. I spent every day for a decade thinking about her, hoping to one day speak with her and apologize for being such an awful friend and breaking her heart. I hoped to be happy that she had found someone who brought her more happiness than I could. I dreaded that I might be the reason she needed therapy. When I finally summoned the courage to reach out, I found out she had died 6 years before. I still think about her, still dream about her. The world feels wrong without her in it. If I could go back in time, I'd give her my whole life if it meant she'd still be here. That feels selfish though, because I abandoned her. I don't deserve to claim her life. I deserve to live with the terrible thing I did forever. I don't know if things would have worked out or if she would still be here, but they would at least be different, and I could say that I tried. To exist alone without her isn't what I wanted. As for me, I don't think I could ever love someone else as much as I loved her. I'll never share with anyone else what I had with her. And I'll never have a friend as true as she was. She was beautiful, wonderfully funny, and her eyes lit up the room. I miss her so much. If you're torn between love and doing the right thing, choose love every time. You may never get that chance again. Don't abandon the people you love. If you love them, tell them. Life is too short for holding back. Story 8. Not moving to a place where my dream job was actually happening. Even if I struck out, at least I could have tried. Story 9. Not taking the first promotion I was ever offered. It took me 8 years to get it back, and I lost the next level up because of it. I would be way ahead by now if I had not been too scared to take the job. Story 10. Believing my now husband's lies and marrying him. Then, a month later, all his skeletons came out of the closet. He is a drug addict and a sex addict. I have been trying to fix our relationship ever since. He made an effort for 5 months in therapy, but then decided he does not need it anymore. I thought he was the love of my life. He just wants to continue destroying my mental health. Story 11. Getting together with my girlfriend so soon. We knew each other for 2 months when we were 17 and decided to move in together. I love her as much as I could love anything, but there is a part of me that wants to be young and alone again. Story 12. In 2015, we were having problems with our cat peeing on the neighbor's house. This was not like him. I rehomed him to a woman I used to work with who had a hobby farm. This cat was an indoor-outdoor cat, and at the hobby farm, the most indoors he would have was the porch. I brought him there, and he ran away 3 days later. I later found out that the reason he was peeing on the neighbor's house was because their daughter got a cat that sat in the window, with the window open. Their daughter ended up getting rid of that cat even before I rehomed mine. I was devastated to learn all this. I loved that cat. He recognized my car and would see me coming home from work. I would watch him run across the yard to the garage to greet me. I never knew what happened to him. This continues to haunt me to this day, and I have carried horrible guilt over this for more than 10 years. Story 13. Making music my career. I could have received a full scholarship to study physics in the University of California system, but I did not. I chose music, and it was the wrong choice. I chose something I loved, and now I hate it, which has made me very unhappy. Story 14. I regret wasting my 20s. Now I am in my 30s with minimal prospects and work experience specific to a field that I despise. I am constantly broke, and my future looks bleak. Time is very valuable. Never forget that. Story 15. Right now, my life has been reduced to the contents of a backpack. I hope she meets someone as twisted as she is and ends up with less than she left me. Story 16. I believed in Prince Charming and meant-to-be relationships. I regret the guys I almost settled with. I maintained relationships that should not have continued longer than they were supposed to. I fought for people who were not worth it. Now, from hoping I would be married to the man of my dreams to looking at my hand every day realizing I am still not wearing a ring. Story 17. One of my top regrets is when I slowly stopped talking to a man who started to like me because I was scared of what could happen. I regret doing that to him. Story 18. Dropping out of nursing school when I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder was absolutely the right decision both for myself and patients, but I miss it greatly. Unfortunately, our country has a time limit for completion, so I would have to restart entirely. Story 19. Obsessive-compulsive disorder gave the first 28 years of my life to an illness and literally controlled my every move. I did not know what it was, so I kept it secret. It has ruined my life. Story 20. I don't regret anything. I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life and I wouldn't change them. That's how you learn. It's how you grow. Everything builds you into the person you are today. That being said, if I could change one thing, and it only affected my current self in a positive way, I would take away that blackout night when I cheated on my partner. We've been together for 10 years, and this happened in year 1. I was 18 and a dumb kid, but it still hurt her. It's still there, and every so often it gets brought up. Story 21. Maxing out my credit card when I was young. I truly think there should be a training course before you open a card. I was a young tall guy in Japan and I had a $20,000 credit card given to me. I had an amazing time, but it cost me almost $18,000. Years later, I am still paying it off and I am almost done. I just can't help but think of all the things I could have done differently if I didn't have it. Stay in Japan for school, be a little more risky with new jobs, have less stress, and so on. Story 22. I blurted out, "At least they still look alike," when a work colleague told me her twin children were mauled by a pit bull. Story 23. I wanted 2 things in my life: to never get divorced and to have a split bumper 1970 Chevrolet Camaro, the year I was born, by the time I was 40. I am 55 and have been divorced for 20 years, and the Camaro is nowhere in sight. Story 24. Having children. When I was young and did not know any better, I thought I knew everything. All I did was pass on trauma, and I feel bad for my children. I was a damaged human, and I brought up and raised more damaged humans. I do not regret my sons. I regret the life I gave them. What are you going to do except keep doing better every day? Story 25. Reluctant to socialize as a child and starting masturbation along with many small wrong choices, by not making any decisions and just going with the flow of life, made my life miserable. Story 26. Saying something incredibly stupid to my best friend who had epilepsy and brain cancer. I was recently diagnosed with epilepsy at the time and was having a very hard time accepting it. One day, I was upset and angry and said my brain wasn't normal and didn't work. Even though my comment was not about her, she took it personally. Couldn't blame her. We didn't talk for a couple of years, and shortly after we reconciled, her cancer came back, and she passed away. Story 27. Not joining clubs in school caused me to spend my free time here, which I like, but I am hopeless in reality. I did an interview today and blew it because I chose to be comfortable my entire teenage years. Now, I cannot speak to people. I wish I had listened to the teachers and my parents, but no, I thought I knew better. Story 28. Not enlisting in the army at 18 or 21 because of a woman wasted many years that could have been full of valuable experiences. I do not even remember my time with her. Story 29. Biggest regret? That is pretty tough. I used to do operating system design, and turning down a job offer from Microsoft in Albuquerque in the 1970s is pretty high on the list. Then there was the time I got interested in Bitcoin when coins were selling for less than $1. I spent $3,000 on a computer to mine Bitcoin, but by the time I got the computer configured, I couldn't mine Bitcoin with that type of system anymore. Had I spent that $3,000 buying Bitcoin at 10 cents per coin, it would have been pretty profitable. Then there was the time I ignored a job offer from one of the first employees of Qualcomm. To my shame, I laughed at the person for trying to get me to work for a tiny, unknown company. Story 30. Marrying the wrong person way too early in life and staying with them for over a decade. Do not get married at 21, people. Very bad idea. Second would be not pursuing every girl I was interested in when I was younger and just taking a chance. Third would be not saving more for retirement early on. Story 31. I wish I had read more as a child. I am a bookworm now, but I feel like I missed many formative years of reading. Story 32. Meeting certain people who almost made me feel less of myself and tried to control me, but I am glad I broke free from it all. Story 33. Told my friend I am not interested in his poorly designed internet currency. A single Bitcoin that costs 159 euros. Why would I spend so much on a currency that is so complicated to use? Story 34. I lived in Brazil for 8 years and spent a lot of time indoors. I wish I had spent those years outside. Story 35. Oh boy, let the judgment begin. Long story short, omitting the backstory, reasons, excuses, and mental health struggles that I have to my small bit of defense for the sake of length. I didn't believe my girlfriend of 8 months, whom I had known for 1 year and 8 months, when she told me about a biological brother she had never mentioned before, in another state who was dying of a rare blood cancer. I didn't believe it, even with plenty of evidence. I'll never understand how. Anyway, while she was gone, I had a girl over to have sex, but as she was pulling into the driveway, reality came crashing in on me and I panicked. My mind was spiraling, trying to figure out what I was going to say to get rid of her. I opened the door, she kissed me, and reflexively I kissed back before practically shoving her down the steps and back to her car, babbling like a madman, telling her she had to leave and why. The next day, mad that she had driven 2 hours round trip and disgusted with me, she texted my girlfriend to tell her, sent screenshots of our planning, and lied, telling her we had sex. According to my girlfriend, she got this text at the exact moment she was leaving the room from just taking her brother off life support and saying goodbye. I lied when confronted, of course. I said the girl faked the screenshots and then let her believe that for years because I was so ashamed while it ate me alive. I almost told her once, then the next day found out she was pregnant. As a child of divorce, I knew I had to take it to my grave to keep my family together. 3 years, a marriage, and 2 kids later, us at our absolute best, and it was still eating me alive. I drunkenly confessed. The fallout was immense. Months of hell. She decided to stay and try to move past it, meanwhile doing everything she could to hurt me back in the cruelest of ways. It's been 2 years of that, and she finally left me for good over it just over a month ago. I was so low that I broke my family before I even knew I would have it. He didn't want to be alive, so he shot an arrow through time, aimed the wrong way, and now I'm dying. Story 36. Spending my 20s depressed and isolated from most people I knew, with a partner who was not helping the situation. Story 37. Not trying harder to make my grandmother get her SPHYNX cat Abby tested for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. She died in my arms, suffocating and drowning in her own fluids in April. I miss you so much, Abby. Story 38. My mom, who had no history of illness, was struck by a sudden sickness and taken to hospital. This all happened overnight, and I was shattered the next morning, so I had to leave her side to get some rest at my family's house. I said goodbye but not I love you, because we were not really the type to say it. I was woken up and told she had died. This completely crushed me and is a regret I have held for over 10 years. I never truly considered she would die that day because of her health history and the general condition I left her in. Saying, "I love you," is free, and you truly do not know when you will see someone for the last time. Story 39. Being so afraid of failing and criticism that I chose to be stuck in my comfort zone that is no longer comfortable. Story 40. I dated a secret sociopath, and then my life completely fell apart. I would prefer never to have dated him. Story 41. I lived the best life, enjoying life to the fullest, but never achieved anything. I am the only one who is the outcast of the family. Story 42. Listening to my doctor and staying on bed rest instead of going back to college. I often wonder what my life would be like if I had not bought into the idea that I would eventually be better and could do it then. I eventually got my degree, but the lack of work due to health and entering today's job market has been a special kind of hell. Story 43. Going to college and incurring all this debt. I should have been a train conductor and traveled around instead. Story 44. I used to have communication issues as a child. I found out in my mid-20s that I had been diagnosed with autism as a small child, but my parents worked hard to hide it from me and the school system. I only discovered this because I found some reports from a child psychiatrist in a filing cabinet I was cleaning after my father died. I worked very hard trying to bridge the gap, and by the time I was in college, I had actually become really good at it. I met the most amazing woman I have ever known, and we had a great relationship. She graduated a year ahead of me, and I encouraged her to go to graduate school at her dream school overseas. I had no idea how much the deficits I used to have in in-person communication were still present in long-distance communication. I unknowingly let the relationship fail. I did not realize anything was wrong until she stopped talking to me for 3 days, then broke up with me. I have tried everything to move past her. Drowning my feelings in alcohol, moving on to other relationships, and taking time to try to feel okay by myself. None of it has really worked. The closest I have come is becoming numb to how hollow I have felt ever since. I cannot even make myself feel less awful by being angry at her because I realize exactly how it was all my fault. I would give anything to go back with the level of self-awareness I have now and do it right, but life does not work that way. I have a serious and potentially fatal illness now, and I am trying to motivate myself to fight through it with the goal of calling her and asking to get coffee and catch up once I have beaten it. Assuming she is still single and living in the same area as me. I know that is a long shot, and she has no reason to assume that I have changed and grown the way I hope I have. Story 45. I chose the medical assisting course instead of hairstyling when I went to trade school. Maybe I would have had a career by now. Story 46. Understanding that I am just uncomfortable around people. I am not shy, I can speak. I just never know what to say. The last 6 years have been a massive change because I met my partner. In a way, she taught me how to talk because she pointed out that people really listen to me when I do say something. Unfortunately, I am a complete goof, so I make you laugh more often than not. In person, you either really get along with me or you really don't. My partner says I am a very likable person. I wish I had known that sooner. Story 47. Having cheated on my girlfriend once, she gave me a chance, but if I went back to the same behavior, that would be the end of our relationship. I never repeated the mistake. I had to rebuild our trust one more time, and we established strong boundaries within our relationship. Of course, it was a process filled with difficult conversations, and both sides developed a heightened sense of paranoia. Because of that, if I could go back in time, I would think twice and never make that shameful mistake. Currently, we care for and support each other, aiming to be better partners, especially me. Story 48. I got mad at my uncle, and we did not talk for a while. Then he got into an accident and died. The last thing I did was get mad at him. I regret it so much. Story 49. Few things I would have handled differently if I had today's maturity back then. But no regrets at all. A lot of good and a lot of bad happened, and altogether that has shaped me into who I am today and made my life a beautiful journey. Story 50. Not being an adult while I was a child, I should have had the wisdom to get help and advocate for myself. If only I had a parent who did that. Story 51. My failed 20-year marriage. I had treatment-resistant depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. He was a selfish person who cheated on me throughout our marriage. He left, blaming my mental illness, but he just wanted to marry his mistress. It will be the greatest regret of my life. I regret that I wasted my best years on him. I regret that I still love him. I will never regret meeting him because I wouldn't have my son. But I should have listened to my mother and moved home when I found out I was pregnant. Story 52. Spending time with a friend instead of visiting my father in the hospital. He died that night and I never got to say goodbye. Story 53. Trusting the government while employed by them, even as they investigated 70-year-old men for riots in Derry. Story 54. For me, it is about letting people stay in my life longer than they deserve just because I cared more than they did. Story 55. Getting hooked on methamphetamine and prescription benzodiazepines. I have been clean for 12 years now. I ruined 2 marriages, my family's trust, and lost 10 years of my memories from the benzodiazepines. I would do anything to take back that first hit. Story 56. Not starting medication for debilitating anxiety sooner. Possibly not having children because I do not want to be all alone. Story 57. Not spending more time with my grandmother before she passed. I was always too busy with work and kept saying I would visit next weekend. Next weekend never came, and now all I have are her voicemails that I cannot bring myself to delete. Story 58. Not finishing my medical degree. I now work in a factory and I hate it. Do not be like me, get your degree. Story 59. Not valuing people and girlfriends properly in adolescence. Not being more outgoing in college. Not understanding that I had avoidant personality disorder, which caused significant trauma. Story 60. The way I treated 2 girls back in the 1980s, I regret how I broke up with them. They deserved better. I have apologized to one of them. The other girl has passed away. Story 61. Not asking 2 or 3 girls I liked out in high school. I was shy and so was one of them. Another was 1 or 2 grades older. Story 62. Thus far, I have not saved money during the coronavirus pandemic. I have lived at home with my parents all my life, and the pandemic was the perfect time to save a large amount of money and prepare myself for my 20s. Instead, I spent it on takeaways and shopping therapy to get me through those tough months. Story 63. Being inconsistent with everything. Now I do not really trust my thoughts and actions because I know I will feel differently in a week or 2. Story 64. Doing drugs. I wish I had all the money I have injected into my veins and snorted up my nose over the years. I have been clean for 5 years now, cured of hepatitis C, but still broke. Story 65. I do not have many. Wait. Actually, I have none because I have said my apologies as needed, and mistakes are part of being human. Story 66. For the longest time, I would have said something that I was not comfortable sharing, even anonymously. I have made some peace with it over the last couple of years, though, so I will say not taking care of myself and teaching myself good habits and life skills. The person who raised me was not going to teach me how to be independent and believed that self-care was pretty much a sin. When I got out on my own in my 20s, I did not really try to fix a lot of that. I let my living environments become awful because I did not have the self-discipline to keep up with things. I let myself go hygienically because I blamed others for not accepting me as I was. I am a lot better now, though I am having a few struggles at the moment. I do not really want to think about how much better, or at least different, life could have been if I had tried or done some things in my 20s instead of in my 40s. Story 67. Not taking that full-time cybersecurity internship at $20 an hour in 2022, which was what I was making then at a dead-end job. I live in a low-cost-of-living area. Experience would have set me up for life. I am in information technology now, but have a ways to go before I can truly make a decent salary. Story 68. Messing around trying to be the next Wolf of Wall Street instead of getting a job when I left school. Story 69. Not spending more time with my mother and father. Not being intimate with every woman I was involved with. They deserve that. Story 70. Treating certain people poorly, treating unpleasant people better than they deserve. My judgment must be off. Story 71. Being so naive with my family's every single interaction. Guilt tripping, lying by omission, slander, theft, verbal abuse, physical abuse, and attempted murder. I tell myself the ranch is worth it, but I might not get to keep it afterward as my sister is pressuring dad to sell it. She has 2 kids, and suddenly even godparents and neighbors are by default on her side. Story 72. Quitting my job for what I thought would be a better opportunity. It was not successful. I was fired, completely my fault, and no one in my field wanted to hire me because I was considered damaged goods. If I had just stayed put, I might have an actual career now. Story 73. Becoming a selfish, self-centered person, I did not have relationships. I took hostages. I struggled with active addiction for 30 years and was homeless for 3 years. All because I could not let go of the past. I held on to trauma and resentments, which drove everyone I loved away. I became a monster until a pipe full of crystal methamphetamine with fentanyl residue in it almost killed me. Story 74. Probably crashing my first car. That put me in a difficult position as I was about to move to another place, and I had to live in a big city without my freedom. Many other troubles also occurred. Story 75. Not visiting my grandparents enough. They were maybe a 20-minute walk away or a 10-minute detour on the way home from school. The whole family used to gather at their place for birthdays, long weekends, and celebrations, so we were there quite often. We also lived with them for a couple of years when my parents split up, while we waited for my father's house to be built. When I grew into my teens, I would hang out with friends after school or just go home and relax. Eventually, I developed depression and got caught up in my own thoughts, but now that they are gone, I really wish I had made more of an effort to stop by and see them. Story 76. Buying a leasehold flat that I cannot sell due to cladding issues and now stuck paying an extremely high monthly service charge. Story 77. Not letting B. Arthur perform oral sex on me when we were intimate. She was begging me to do it, but I refused. Now I wonder if it was a missed opportunity. Story 78. Do not get married. Fall in love if you want and build a life with someone if you want, but do not intertwine your lives. Always be able to leave. Story 79. Not necessarily any regrets. I have an interest in performing in the adult film industry. Sometimes I question it because I am not looking as hard as I should be. Then I get down on myself for not being there yet. I am near Los Angeles. I have thought about hiring agents. However, I am intimidated. I wish someone could guide me in the right direction. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.